Hello, welcome to another Becoming a Modern Man matchup. We're playing our green-black rock deck, and this time we're playing against Lantern Control, which is an interesting deck to play against. Not the most fun, to be quite honest, but definitely an interesting deck in the format, very unique strategy. So, an interesting one to look at. The opponent leads off with a Spire, a Mishra's Bauble, and a Thoughtseize, and takes our Inquisition away. Baubles. Just pass the turn. Lantern of Insight, which is one of the combo pieces of the deck, which allows you to see on top of each player's library. And, well, you'll see it soon, but basically the combo is for play Lantern of Insight, so you can see what your opponent has on top of their library, and then you play it along with cards like Codex Shredder and Pixis, and some other cards. Basically cards that allow you to mill your opponent for one. So you can see what cards they've got, and then you can control their draw basically from there on out. So that's the basics of the combo. And then Ensnaring Bridge basically prevents your opponent from attacking. So I'm going to play Dark Confidant here. I feel like this is a good card for this matchup. Obviously, the more cards you're drawing per turn, the less control your opponent can have over exactly what cards you're drawing. So it certainly seems like a good card for the matchup. Opponent has a Collective Brutality to kill off the Confidant, unfortunately. So that's not so great for us. So I fetch here, and I play Liliana out. I think in hindsight that was probably a bad idea, particularly because we can see that our opponent has a Piping Needle on top of his library, which is going to neuter the Liliana, so maybe we're just better off dropping the Flayer and starting to get in. Can discard Fatal Push here, and obviously force our opponent to discard something. Discard Whir of Invention, which is certainly a card that I'm happy to see go into the bin. It's basically like a Chord of Calling for artifacts, so it can allow our opponent to search up an artifact of their choosing. So Needle comes down, names Liliana. There's a Pixis, which means our opponent can now start messing with our draw step if they so desire. But allow us to draw the Tarmogoyf here. So we're going to drop Tarmogoyf and Grim Flayer. But I feel like our opponent seems to be fairly confident that he's got a bridge and isn't concerned about our creatures. So there's the Ensnaring Bridge. There's another one on top of his library as well. So things are not looking great for us at the moment. We're pretty well locked down, to be honest. The only real chance we've got here is if two of the cards on top of our deck in a row are desirable cards to draw, such as an Abrupt Decay or a Maelstrom Pulse, which isn't terribly likely. Our opponent then plays a Codex Shredder, so now it's two cards. He can mill two cards off the top, so I'd have to have three cards in a row that were good enough to convince my opponent that he needed to get rid of them. So yeah, we're basically locked out of the game at this point. We do have answers in our deck, such as Abrupt Decay and Maelstrom Pulse, like I say, but our opponent's going to be able to prevent us drawing any two cards basically off the top of our deck that they wish. So they've got control of our draw step, and we can't really do anything, so they're going to let us draw cards that aren't relevant, and anything like an Abrupt Decay or a Maelstrom Pulse, I imagine that they will be getting rid of. And basically the way the win happens is that they just mill you to death. Once they've got enough Codex Shredders and Pyxis of Pandemoniums, etc., then they can just mill you. So, yeah, basically, I mean, you probably don't want to watch this. I think I played this out just to see what was going on and see if our opponent had a win condition, but basically the win condition is just mill. So, yeah, there's nothing there's nothing we can do. Unfortunately, our opponent's won the game. We're not going to be able to draw anything relevant again, and we can't get through these ensnaring bridges, which is very annoying. I kind of feel like Ensnaring Bridge should be banned from Modern, not necessarily because it's too good, but just because it's a very miserable, unfair card. Because really, I shouldn't be losing this game. I've got all these creatures, but I can't attack, and I also can't get to anything relevant. So here's our Abrupt Decay, which would be a good answer. Although our opponent's got double Ensnaring Bridge at this point, and our opponent's obviously going to mill that off us. So yeah, I mean our opponent's in complete control, and they eventually mill us out. So I think we'll leave it at that. So let's go into game 2. See how we get on. I'm going to play. This hand is a little sketchy. It does have some good answers in it. But a one-lander I think is possibly a bit too risky. So I think we're going to mulligan this. This hand's decent. Don't have an untapped land. This should probably be the more recent lands, the fast lands or whatever, that were in Aether Revolt, I think, or one of the more recent sets. I didn't have them to hand, so I put in Woodland Cemetery. But yeah, if you're playing the correct lands, you probably won't have an issue like this. But it's not the end of the world. We can just run out the Woodland Cemetery, and then just means we miss out on turn 1 Inquisition, which is unfortunate, but not the end of the world. Opponent leads off with a Needle, so it doesn't look like they've got anything terribly exciting. If they'd turn 1 Lantern, I might have felt a little bit more aggrieved. So, a bunch of artifacts come down. There's an Elite Ensnaring Bridge, which isn't great to see, but at least at the minute we can attack. And I think we'll probably go for a Confidant and an Inquisition or a Thoughtseize here. Okay, so our opponent's not actually really got a whole lot going on, just a couple of lands, and we're going to be able to get rid of this Ancient Stirrings, thankfully. So, certainly light on things to do. Going to draw a card off the bauble, though. So I've got a couple of new cards. Inquisition gets to take away the Tireless Tracker, which is not the end of the world. Second Ensnaring Bridge is a little annoying, but fortunately we draw straight into a Maelstrom Pulse, which is excellent timing. So we're just going to use that here to get rid of these bridges. Going to be able to attack for 4. Just play a fetch here. And play the Welding Jar. Which is too late to save any of his Ensnaring Bridges. Now we're going to be able to drop 2 Goyfs here and attack for 4, putting that opponent down to 10, so he's dead next turn currently. And yeah, that'll do it. So yeah, that obviously went a lot better. As I say, Confidant is fairly good in this matchup. Our opponent didn't really draw any of his sort of combo pieces in terms of the Lantern and the mill cards, so that obviously was very good for us, and we managed to find a quick answer to the Ensnaring Bridge, which is very important for us, otherwise we might have ended up stuck under that. So yeah, that went a whole lot better. So let's move on to game 3. Yeah, so this hand's fairly decent. We've got some hand disruption. We've got the Maelstrom Pulse, which is very good. Although we do need to be conscious that our opponent might have hand disruption of his own to get rid of that. And then we've got a couple of threats. So, not the worst. I think this is a decent keep. I'll play Inventor's Fair into turn 1 Lantern of Insight, which isn't great. Obviously, we would like to prevent our opponent from having that if possible. I don't know. I think if this deck became more popular, it would be worth having a Creeping Corrosion or something in the deck, in the sideboard. But the main problem is that you need these cards to be in your hand, otherwise you may never get an opportunity to draw them, which is kind of the big problem. So Inquisition, we see Codex Shredder, Inquisition, Needle, and Whir of Invention. I think I ended up taking the Codex Shredder because that's basically his combo there, because he's already got the Lantern. It would be nice to be able to take the Inquisition, but unfortunately we're not really in a position where we have that privilege. And obviously good to see that he doesn't currently have an Ensnaring Bridge. So just need to get on the beatdowns as soon as possible. Inventor's Fair is actually quite annoying, because after he's got 3 artifacts in play, he'll be getting 1 life a turn, which obviously makes killing him that much more difficult. Opponent plays a Needle, put Confidant on top, which is a card I would like to receive if possible. Play out the Tarmogoyf, although it's only a 2/3 at the moment. Draw Confidant. So I think we're going to go attack with Tarmogoyf, and then I guess we're playing Confidant and Thought Seizing. We see 2 Whir of Inventions, which isn't too good. Obviously, they allow him to search up Ensnaring Bridge, which is really what he needs at this moment in time. I suppose we should have Thought Seized actually before we attacked, so we could grow our Goyf for the 1 point of damage that was worth. So that probably wasn't the best of sequences. So opponent has a Codex Shredder on top now, we can see, so he's close to getting that combo put together. Can attack for 6 here. Going to drop the second Confidant. So drawing 3 cards a turn. So means our opponent doesn't have complete control over our draw at the moment, at least. But he is going to be able to whir here into the Ensnaring Bridge. So we're not going to be able to attack. We're going to kind of have to hope that things go away. And we see that our opponent's got Codex Shredder on the top, which is awful for us. So we are drawing 3 cards here, but our opponent can veto any 2 of those. And given that our answers are sort of... I mean, we do have good answers, but it's... I think we have 2 Maelstrom Pulses in the deck and 4 Abrupt Decays. So I think there's a reasonable chance our opponent's going to be able to prevent us from getting any of those. And the second Ensnaring Bridge pretty much wraps us up. Even if our opponent let us draw the Abrupt Decay, we wouldn't actually be able to prevent the Ensnaring Bridge. So we are locked out, and I think that pretty much wraps it up. I mean, there's even a reasonable chance that Confidant would kill us. I'm not sure if I got the proper sideboard for this deck currently. I might have had a slightly different sideboard for this match than I have put in the list. Probably slightly more janky. It prevents us from getting Tireless Tracker, which could have been a way for us to draw at instant speed, which is potentially a way to circumvent the Codex Shredder, etc. But yeah, as I say, it's all wrapped up really. I think we're going to die to our own confidence eventually. If not, we'll be dying to mill. So yeah, that wraps it up. Very irritating deck to play against. I don't even really know what the best strategy is because they have a bit of hand disruption to deal with answers, and then they can prevent you from drawing your other answers. So it's a very tricky deck to play against. We have good cards against them. I think Dark Confidant is very good against them. I think Abrupt Decay and Maelstrom Pulse are also very good cards against them. So it's certainly not unwinnable. Multiple ensnaring bridges and etc. I think I kind of want more artifact destruction in the deck, I guess. Potentially, or in the sideboard if I thought I was going to be coming up against Lantern Control frequently. But that's kind of the tricky thing about Modern. There's a lot of decks out there, and making a sideboard of 15 cards to tackle all of them is not really possible. I don't run into Lantern Control a lot, but very difficult matchup, even for a deck that's quite versatile like ours. Because I know some decks probably just don't even have answers to Ensnaring Bridge, so a tricky one. Certainly very advantageous for us to have Abrupt Decays and Maelstrom Pulse's main deck. So we do have main deck answers, and maybe you can, if you steal game one, I think possibly your chances are a lot better. But yeah, very tricky matchup, and not the most pleasant. But maybe one day they'll think about banning Ensnaring Bridge. But until that day, this is a deck that you can risk running into.